News Channel 8 presents New Skills for Living with your host, Tom Lavin, a healthy plan for healthy living.
Hello and welcome to New Skills for Living, a show dedicated to healing and wholeness in our community. If you or a loved one has ever struggled with pessimism or negativity or wondering if you can really positively change your life, you'll want to watch our show today as we talk about realistic optimism and how people can and do change their lives. We have two wonderful guests today to work with us in addressing that topic. To my far right is Kay Ream, and Kay is a licensed clinical social worker and a supervisor at Adult Mental Health Services. Kay has a very distinguished career in working with adults and children and adolescents, working with people through tribal services, as well as through child welfare. Kay, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And to my immediate right is Alex Pipitone, and Alex is a consumer at Northern Nevada Adult Mental Health Services, and Alex is very generously going to share her experience, strength, and hope with us today about how she has changed her life. And Alex, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah. So Alex, would you share with us kind of what your life was like before you came to adult mental health and how your life has changed since then?
Well, before I came to even know about Nevada mental health, I knew something was wrong with my life. I always felt I didn't belong. I was suicidal. I tried to commit suicide a lot. My primary care physicians tried to take care of me and prescribe psychiatric meds for me, and it was just like being a guinea pig. It just didn't seem to work no matter what physician was prescribing. They tried very hard, and I was grateful, but they just didn't know what went together, and they didn't know how to diagnose me. So when I came to Nevada Mental Health, I got the best care I've ever received in my life, and it came late in life, but my thought is better late than never.
Yes.
I got several diagnoses. I got a wonderful therapist, Dr. Allen. I now have Dr. Dis. I have Kay, who is awesome, as my service coordinator. Mm-hmm. And I have just received Dr. Yasar as my psychiatrist, and he's the top man there, and he's just awesome. I got diagnosed. They did have to try a few meds working with me to see what would work and what wouldn't. I'm not going to say it was perfect the first time around. Mm-hmm. But they found the proper meds. Kay has worked with me about balancing money and balancing life and helping me find a job, which has been real important for self-efficacy for me. And Dr. Dis works with me through all those same things, plus issues in my past to help me build self-esteem and efficacy. And Dr. Yasar is just a wonderful man. So I've learned that I am supposed to be on this earth, that I'm not a screw-up. I actually, through Nevada Mental Health, went back to school through their encouragement and got my BA in psychology, which was a big thing for someone who's mentally ill and felt they weren't supposed to be on the face of the earth. So I have hope towards the future, that I know now that there will be a future and that it's going to be so much brighter than I could have ever imagined. And I owe it all to God and NAMS. He just placed me there, and I've thrived like I never thought possible.
Yeah, your story sure bears that out, Alex. So, to hear you talk about what it was like and now what's happened, what I'm hearing is there was kind of a shift from pessimism and negativity and kind of maybe helplessness and hopelessness to kind of an optimism, like, yes, I can have a life and I can have a good life. Am I hearing you correctly?
Oh, yes. My life is so much better now than it's ever been before, and I can see, working with my providers now, that it's only going to get better. I'm not saying there won't be one step forward, one step back occasionally, but I can see towards the future very clearly that I'm moving towards it instead of backwards, and that I'm going to keep moving towards it and keep moving towards it. And that I have a solid foundation of help available to me for any aspect of my life that may go awry or may just need some fine-tuning or something like that.
Yeah. And so, Alex, to hear you share that, what I'm thinking is sometimes in the support group, people will say, you alone can do it, but you don't have to do it alone. It sounds, you talked about self-efficacy where you found your own strength, but then you also have this support network to support you in living this vision of a new life, huh?
I have an amazing, I already talked about Kay and Dr. Dis and Dr. Allen and Dr. Yasar. I have an amazing, I just feel so blessed to have them as part of me to always be there and to always help me, that I don't have to be alone.
Yes.
That there's always someone of strong brilliance that can help me see what I'm not seeing, do what I'm not doing, feel what I'm not feeling. There's always a way at NAMS. There's always a way. And now I have, being a member or a consumer at NAMS, I suppose, I now have a team in place that is very valuable to me and has made my life worth living.
Yeah, that is a wonderful story of recovery. Alex, thank you for sharing that. And of course, as unique and wonderful as your story is, there are really so many hundreds of people through adult mental health who are recovering. And Kay, I was wondering, as you heard Alex share her story in your years as a clinical social worker, what were some of the themes that you heard from Alex that are common in recovery?
The initial diagnosis creating a lot of helpless feelings, hopelessness, maybe some suicidal stuff. We have the system in place at NAMS. We've got many services there. Alex has worked very hard. She deserves 75% of the credit for working towards where she is now. I mean, she's employed now, part-time. She works very hard to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and she's a joy to work with.
So one of the things that I'm hearing you say is it takes hope and it takes hard work. And I know in your philosophy, Kay, that this sense of empowerment is very important to you. Can you talk with us a little bit about empowerment?
Well, I think empowerment's so important. People need to know that they can get past this, that they can learn with a mental illness diagnosis, that there is a life out there. They may need to learn to manage their feelings. As with Alex, she's learning to manage her budget. There's lots of things that people can do. They just need to believe in themselves.
Yeah.
And what I see from Alex is that she is believing in herself.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing is that part of it is an attitude, a sense of optimism, a vision of a new life, getting some support from other people, and then also learning some skills to learn how to build that life. And those, Alex, thank you for sharing your story in this first segment, and Kay for your comments on that. And right after this brief break, we are going to talk more about how people can change their lives from despair and defeatism to optimism and really having a good life. We'll see you after this brief break. Hello and welcome back to New Skills for Living. In this segment, we want to talk about negativity. Maybe you've had that in your life where you've been somehow caught up with negative thoughts and negative behaviors, and we want to spend a little bit of time taking a look at that before we get into optimism. So, Kay, in your work as a clinical social worker, could you talk with us about what you've seen with your clients throughout the years? Like, how does negative thinking show up in their life, and how does negative behavior show up in their life?
Well, I think negative thinking holds people back. And sometimes we're taught negative thinking. We learn it through our experiences, through the way we're treated throughout our lives. If you can learn to manage those feelings and turn them around and learn from them, your life will get better. And as a clinician, what I try to do is reframe for people, help them reframe those negative thoughts they're having so they can learn from them rather than hold them back. People don't need to keep thinking in negative ways. It's very destructive. So I try to allow people to see what's happening and to move forward in positive ways.
So maybe, Kay, I guess one of the things that you do is you help people identify maybe some of these core negative beliefs, like I'm not good enough, I'll never succeed, no one loves me, I'll always be rejected. First of all, you help them identify those, and then probably you help them kind of see how that's influenced their self-esteem and their relationships. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, what I work with people with when we're talking about things like that is that they don't need to keep thinking that way, that they can change that, that they can learn to manage those feelings And as they learn to manage those more negative feelings, they're going to become more optimistic and feel more hopeful about their future and their life and where they're going.
Yeah. So, and as a result of that, Kay, I guess then these negative feelings, which can really be oppressive, they begin to lighten up and they don't have so much impact in a person's life, huh?
Right. I truly believe that.
Yeah. Well, Alex, can you share with us now, before you came to NAMS, you must have had some overwhelming times of negative thinking and negative behaving. Can you share a little bit with us what that was like?
Sure. Before I came to NAMS, I didn't even know I had control over my feelings. I thought they controlled me. And a lot of the things that you said, like feeling unworthy, I used to feel like I didn't deserve good things in my life. I was unworthy. God couldn't possibly love me. There was a mistake. I wasn't supposed to be here. Nothing was ever going to change, things like that. And I kept wondering I knew something mentally was wrong with me, but over 30 years, nobody told me exactly what it was. Mm-hmm. And so I just kept thinking, I'm bad, I'm bad, I'm bad, I'm not worthy. And over the years at NAMS, just a few years, I learned to recognize the fact that I have the power over my thoughts. And if I choose them to be negative, I'm probably not going to change much. Mm-hmm. But if I choose them to be positive, then a whole new world opens up to me. And I think that's a very valuable thing that NAMS stresses and stresses and stresses, is that you are not your thoughts. You are not you are your words, but you're not your thoughts, and you can always choose, and it's choose to change your thoughts. Your thoughts don't run you.
That's a great message of hope. And Kay, in this last minute, one of the things that I heard Alex talking about is from feeling trapped by one's thoughts to being free to choose them. We've got about a half minute, Kay. Can you talk with us about that?
Well, I think from what I hear from Alex and what I know about her is that she's learned to manage her feelings. And because of that, she's able to move on in her life and have a life, and she's more than her mental illness, her mental illness diagnosis.
That's well put. So after this brief break, we're going to return, and we're going to talk more about how a person shifts from negative core beliefs and negative thoughts and feelings and behaviors toward a more optimistic and positive perspective on life and building this new life. We'll see you right after the break. Hello and welcome back to New Skills for Living. In this segment, we're going to be talking about optimism, and sometimes we might think, well, can you really be positive? Are you being Pollyannish? Are you being realistic if you're being optimistic? And we're going to talk about optimistic thoughts and feelings as well as optimistic behaviors. And so, Kay, would you go ahead and talk with us about optimism? What are signs or examples of optimistic thoughts and feelings and behaviors?
Well, I think the I can kind of feelings, the sense of humor improves, being able to learn to laugh at yourself at some of the negative thoughts you get and have a lot of self-talk about that. And just continue on in that vein. Again, we don't need to keep living in those negative thoughts. They're contagious. So if you can ignore them, manage them, maybe allow 5 minutes out of the day for the negative thoughts to creep out, and use a timer, have the timer go off, and no more negative thoughts that day. You get to spend the rest of the day of turning those thoughts around.
So let me catch this. So sometimes with clients, Kay, you might say, okay, give yourself 5 minutes to think all these negative thoughts.
Right.
So you kind of put a boundary around it, huh?
Set an egg timer, have the egg timer go off, and that's it for the day. You get to be positive all day, and you're going to have fun with this. So humor is very important. And have fun with these things, because if you have fun with them, they become contagious.
Yeah. I like what you were talking about. Negativity can be kind of toxic. I guess that's a kind of a synonym for contagious. Huh?
Yes.
So some examples then, Kay, are thoughts that I am worthwhile, I can do it, I do have friends, or I can make friends, I am lovable. And so does someone kind of change their self-talk, Kay? Do you have people like talk to themselves like that?
Absolutely. And when you have the negative thought, it's like you stop and you reframe it.
Uh-huh.
That's not who I am.
Uh-huh.
I like who I am. I like how I'm doing this. I like the work I'm doing. It's okay for me to be mentally ill because I'm doing something about it.
Yes.
I'm learning to manage what's going on in my life.
Those are some really good examples. And then, Alex, Kay was talking about the thoughts and the feelings. Can you talk with us about the behavior? Sometimes maybe when you're not thinking so positively or feeling so positively, but you still go ahead and do a positive behavior anyway.
Well, dramatically what strikes me in my life is that I never thought I would finish my degree in psychology.
Mm-hmm.
I dropped out over 20 years ago. And the negative thoughts were there. You're too stupid, you're too old, you missed your chance. And I went ahead and took an online course of study that took me a year and a month. And it was an accelerated course. And I just kept thinking, how am I doing this? And then the voice kept saying, you can do this. You're not stupid. You're very bright. You have help. You have resources. And you don't have to accept this attitude that you're going to fail this class, or you're not going to get your degree, or you're not going to make the dean's list the way you want to. All the negative thoughts that came in, I was able, through things I've learned at NAMS, to reframe them, like Kay said, and make positive ones out of them. I didn't choose to. I learned a lot from what Kay said about.
You know, I tell you what, we want to hear the end of this story, and we're going to have to wait until right after this brief break, and we're going to check back in with Alex and hear about these changes that she's made in her life. Welcome back to New Skills for Living. We want to continue to hear from Alex about this change that she made in her life and how she successfully completed her bachelor's degree, which was a result of positive thinking and feeling and behavior. So please go ahead.
Well, like I was saying, I learned from Kay and from my therapist that you get a certain amount of time to sit on what they call that pity pot. You get 5 minutes of negativity, and then you move past it. And when a negative thought comes in, you just alter it immediately. Like let the negative thought go through a Teflon mind, let it go right out. It's not like you can ignore it. And then replace it immediately with something positive that you know to be true about yourself. Because I find that most of the negative thoughts I have about myself, I have now learned through all the help at Nevada Mental Health, aren't true. And I wonder sometimes where they came from, but that doesn't matter. It's just the fact, the overwhelming joy that you can find in life knowing that all those things you used to believe, you now have a new set of beliefs and you're moving forward in your life, and it's all because you got properly diagnosed people who care for you. NAMS has an incredible staff that cares for you and just helps you every step of the way, and then one day you realize, I'm doing this on my own. I have the support all in place. They all help me every day to keep it going. But when I'm on my own and it's just me, I see a positive outcome. And that's such a phenomenal change from my youth and young adulthood.
Yes.
It's just overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, again, what a wonderful change that you're sharing with us and a new life that you have. Kay, I'm wondering then, as your work as a social worker, can you tell us a little bit about how important it is that people receive encouragement, maybe from a mental health professional or from a family member or from someone else in a support group? How important that is?
It's incredibly important for people to believe in themselves. And when I work with people, my constant focus is to teach them to believe in themselves by having them look at who they really are, not who they are from the messages they've gotten over their lifetime. There's lots of support. In Alex's case, she's willing to go for the support. And if people would reach out to that support, their lives would get better.
So in terms of reaching out, Kay, have you found that sometimes stigma can get in the way of people asking for help, that they're afraid that they're saying there's something wrong with me, or I'm bad, or I'm not good enough, and so they're stigmatized and they're afraid to ask for help?
Absolutely. It's a sad thing that depression, mood disorders are called a mental illness because it keeps people from seeking help. It's unfortunately seen as a weakness, and it's not a weakness. It's just a different than.
Yeah.
It's like someone who's diabetic and someone who's not diabetic. It's another part of who some people are.
Yeah. And if someone's feeling that stigma, to go ahead and realize that might be part of a negative thinking pattern, and to not let it get in the way.
Absolutely.
But to go ahead and say, kind of like Alex was saying earlier, like, I'm worth it. It's okay for me to have a nice life, and I'm going to go after it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And she's learned through
Yeah.
her hard work
Yeah.
that she is all those things that she is now.
Yeah.
And there's more to come for her.
Yeah. Can you share with just a little bit of time, Alex? But if someone out there is someone who has been struggling with depression or anxiety or another difficulty in their life, what's something you would share with them right now about asking help and getting help?
I think it's important who you ask help from. I'm not sure family members are always the best. For a person who has those negative thoughts, they came from somewhere. So possibly if they can get in to see a therapist that doesn't, like at a health clinic, mental health clinic or something, and start having therapy, I think that's a wonderful way to go. I think supportive friends, church certainly, anywhere you can find support for you as who you are, where you are.
That is some excellent encouragement from Alex, who has been so generous in sharing with us how she's changed her life, and it's been great to have Kay Ream share with us her perspective as a social worker about how people can change their lives and be realistic and optimistic at the same time. Up on your screen, I think there's probably right now some information about the show. It will be available on the website. And so if you go to www.easeap.com, you'll be able to watch this show and other New Skills for Living show. We want to thank you for joining us. As again, we want to thank Kay Ream, and we want to thank Alex Pipitone for coming and helping us out in exploring this really important topic. We want to wish you a really good life, and we look forward to seeing you next month when we explore another New Skills for Living.